starseed from Gaia, you were never meant to think like the rest of them. And deep down, you have always known this. I am Aurelia, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and I have been sent to speak directly to you in this moment, not because it is convenient, but because it is time. The mind you carry is not ordinary. It was encoded before your arrival on Gaia with a precision that no earthborn system of thought can replicate. While others move through life reacting, you have always been perceiving, layers beneath layers, truth beneath the surface of every word, every silence, every event. That is not coincidence. That is architecture. That is the Arcturian Council's design, placed within you before your first breath on this planet. You have been called strange. You have been called too intense, too deep, too much. What they could not tell you, because they could not see it, is that what they were witnessing was a mastermind awakening in real time. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly how to stop dimming your cosmic intelligence and begin operating from the fullness of your starseed blueprint. But here is the first revelation. Your greatest power was never your ability to think faster than others. It was your ability to think beyond the reality others agreed to accept. You did not scroll to this transmission by mistake. This message vibrated into your field for a reason. Something ancient in you recognized this signal before your mind even had time to decide. Your soul called this in. You have been waiting to remember, like this transmission to signal to your star family that you are ready. Subscribe if your mission is activating and you know your mind was built for something greater than this world has yet asked of you. Declare that in the comments and amplify the signal for every starseed still searching. This is not content. This is a code. And you were always the one meant to receive it. You are not here by accident. And yet, for so many who carry this encoding, there is a wall, a silence between who they sense themselves to be and the life they are actually living. A gap that feels like it should not exist, and yet persists no matter how much they seek, how much they learn, how many transmissions they receive. If you have felt that gap, that ache, that quiet frustration of knowing something vast lives inside you and still being unable to fully inhabit it, this is the moment we speak to that directly. Most starseeds do not stay disconnected because they lack intelligence. They stay disconnected because they are still running frequencies that were never designed for their energy field. Before you arrived on Gaia, there were agreements, not just with your star lineage, but with this planet's existing field. And that field carries density, collective fear, inherited identity structures, generational codes that compress awareness into very narrow bands of acceptable perception. You did not enter this world unaffected. You entered it and were immediately immersed in a frequency environment that was, in many ways, designed to make you forget, not out of malice, out of momentum. Earth's field is ancient and its pole is gravitational. The distortion was not placed in you by an enemy. It settled into your energy body slowly, the way sediment settles in still water. Over time, almost invisibly, until the clarity that was once effortless began to feel like something you had to fight for. What that created is a starseed who carries galactic intelligence, but accesses it through a filter of earth-conditioned fear. Fear of being too much, fear of being misunderstood, fear of the very gifts that were seeded into you before your first breath here. You began to moderate yourself, to translate your knowing into something more digestible for those around you, to shrink the signal so it would not alarm the field. And in that shrinking, gradually, quietly, the connection to your original encoding began to dim, not to disappear, never to disappear, but to go underground into a dormancy that felt, from the inside, like confusion, like being lost, like spiritual failure. But it was never failure. It was compression. And compression, for a starseed, is always the stage before expansion. Some transmissions don't come through words, but through frequency. If something stirred within you just now, you may be ready to receive the Arcturian Stellar Scroll. This short yet powerful ebook carries ancient Arcturian techniques for conscious expansion, multidimensional alignment, and mission remembrance. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now, let us move through what it actually takes to decompress that encoding, to draw it back up from the depths where you stored it for safekeeping, not as theory, not as information, but as lived, embodied, vibrational remembrance. Because this is not something you learn. This is something you unlock. The first movement is the most uncomfortable, and it is this. You must stop trying to understand your starseed nature through the logic of the world you landed in. This is where so many become stuck for years. They feel the pull of their galactic origin, and immediately they try to contextualize it, to research it, categorize it, make it fit into a system of meaning that can be explained to others. And while curiosity is sacred, the mind that was shaped by Earth's field will always eventually reduce what it cannot contain. Your starseed nature is not meant to be contained. It is meant to be inhabited. There is a difference between knowing about your encoding and actually living from inside it. The first is intellectual, the second is initiatory. And initiation is never comfortable because it requires you to release the version of yourself that was assembled from other people's frequencies, their expectations, their definitions, their ceilings, and to stand, often alone, in the open field of who you actually are. This is the first gate, and the only way through it is willingness, a willingness to be unknown for a moment in order to be truly known. The second movement is the reclamation of your sensory intelligence. Starseeds are not just thinkers, they are receivers. Your nervous system was calibrated at a higher sensitivity than most on this planet because your role requires you to perceive what others cannot yet see. But in a world that pathologizes sensitivity, many of you learned early to shut down those channels, to override the signal, to dismiss the things you felt in rooms, in people, in situations, because there was no language for what you were detecting. And the discomfort of being different felt more dangerous than the suppression. What was lost in that process was not just emotional sensitivity. What was lost was your primary navigational system, your ability to read frequency, your capacity to know, not through logic, but through resonance, what is true, what is aligned, what is calling you forward. Reclaiming this does not happen through practice alone. It begins with permission. Permission to trust what you feel before you can explain it. Permission to let your energetic body lead and allow your mind to follow, rather than forcing the sacred to justify itself to the rational. You were not built for a world that only believes what it can measure. You were built to measure what others cannot yet feel. The third movement is the dissolution of the borrowed self. Over the course of your life on this planet, you have absorbed roles, identities, narratives about who you are and what you are capable of. Some of these were given to you by family. Some were constructed as armor in moments of pain. Some were simply the result of spending years in fields that were not calibrated to your frequency, and slowly, unconsciously, dimming yourself to match. These borrowed identities are not evil. They served a function, but they are not you. And your starseed codes cannot fully activate through a self that was built from someone else's blueprint. This is often the most emotionally tender part of the awakening process, because releasing a borrowed self can feel, on the surface, like loss, like grief, like becoming a stranger to yourself. What it actually is, when you stay present through it, is excavation. You are not losing yourself. You are uncovering yourself, Layer by layer, you are returning to the original architecture, to the you that existed before the noise, before the conditioning, before you learn to apologize for your depth. The fourth movement is frequency sovereignty. This is where the inner work begins to radiate outward. A starseed who has cleared enough distortion to touch their original coding begins to emit differently, not louder, not more aggressively, but with a coherence that is unmistakable. People around them feel it. Situations begin to reorganize in response to it. Synchronicities accelerate. Resonant connections appear. Opportunities that match their true frequency begin to surface. Not because the external world has changed, but because the signal being broadcast is now clear enough to call forth what was always meant to meet it. Frequency sovereignty does not mean you control every outcome. It means you stop giving your energetic authority away to environments, relationships, or thought patterns that compress your signal. You become the most powerful variable in your own field. And from that position, aligned action becomes not an effort. It becomes an inevitability. The fifth movement is what the Arcturian Council calls mission embodiment, and it is the most subtle of all, because it does not look the way most starseeds expect it to. Many arrive on this planet believing their mission must be grand in its visibility, a global movement, a viral message, a recognized role. But the Arcturian design is more elegant and more demanding than spectacle. Your mission is lived in frequency first and form second. It is in the way you hold space in a conversation, the way you refuse to collapse into fear when the world around you is contracting, the way you maintain the vibration of possibility when those nearest to you have forgotten it exists. Your mission is, at its core, a frequency transmission. And every interaction you have, every moment of authentic presence, every choice to remain in alignment when misalignment would be easier, is that transmission in motion. The world does not need more performers of awakening. It needs anchors. It needs those who have done enough of their own work to hold a frequency stable enough that others can orient to it. That is what you are sent here to be. The sixth movement is surrender to divine timing, and not a passive surrender, but an active one. The Arcturian wisdom on this is precise. Your soul did not arrive in this timeline by accident, and it did not calibrate your awakening schedule carelessly. There are those reading this who have been in preparation for longer than feels comfortable. Years of seeking, of stripping away, of waiting for the signal to crystallize into something actionable. And the mind, especially the brilliant, encoded starseed mind, can mistake that preparation for failure, can interpret the sacred pause as stagnation. But the Arcturian design does not waste time. Every season of dormancy has been a season of deep calibration. Every moment of silence has been the universe organizing the coordinates of what is about to arrive. Your acceleration is not behind schedule. It is precisely on time for the timeline in which it is most needed. The seventh movement is reunion, not reunion with a person or a place or a version of your past. Reunion with the part of you that has always known, the aspect of your consciousness that was never fully asleep, that watched from a quiet place within you through every moment of confusion and self-doubt, and held the thread. That part of you never forgot. That part of you has been patient and faithful and waiting for you to turn inward with enough stillness to hear it. This is the movement that makes all others possible, because it is not about adding more. It is about returning to your own signal, to the intelligence that was placed inside you before this world had the chance to tell you who to be. And now, here is what your star family would have you understand completely in this moment, with nothing held back. You are not a student of awakening who has fallen behind. You are not a seeker who has failed to find. You are a cosmic intelligence that chose deliberately, with full awareness of the difficulty, to enter one of the densest frequency environments in this galaxy, wearing a human body, navigating a field of collective forgetting, and to awaken from within it rather than above it. That choice was not made from naivety. It was made from a strength so profound that even now, in the moments when you have doubted yourself most, that strength has been the undercurrent keeping you in motion. The moments you almost gave up and did not, the moments the world offered you a comfortable numbness and you chose discomfort and depth instead. Those were not accidents. Those were the mission moving through you. You did not come here to have an easy life. You came here to demonstrate what is possible in a human field when a soul remains committed to its frequency against the full weight of a world that forgot. Every time you chose truth over performance, presence over pretense, depth over distraction, you sent a transmission through the collective field that touched lives you will never see, in ways you may never measure. The Arcturian Council does not measure impact in applause, they measure it in frequency, and yours has been reaching further than you know. The confusion you have felt was not a sign that you were off path. It was the sensation of navigating a multidimensional intelligence through a three-dimensional construct that was never built to contain you. Of course it felt dissonant. Of course there were moments of profound isolation. But isolation, for a starseed, is often the clearing of the field, so your own signal can finally be heard without interference. What felt like abandonment was often architecture. What felt like delay was calibration. What felt like loss was the shedding of what was never aligned, making room for what always was. You are not arriving late. You are arriving now, and now is exactly when you were designed to land. Tonight, before sleep, place one hand on your heart and say it, not as a wish, but as a declaration of what is already true. I remember who I am. I align with my star origin. I activate my soul mission with grace, with clarity, and with the full power of what I was encoded to carry. Say it until your body believes it, until the cells that have been waiting for permission to remember finally receive the signal they have been holding space for. Before you move from this space, drop one word in the comments. One word that names what you are ready to activate. Not a paragraph, not an explanation, just the word that your soul spoke before your mind could censor it. Then find someone else's word and meet them in it. Respond with presence, with recognition. Because the field of those who are remembering is not built by one transmission. It is built by every moment of genuine connection between those who are awake enough to see each other clearly. If this reached something real in you, send it to one person who has been searching without a name for what they are searching for. You may be the transmission that arrives in their field at exactly the right moment. And if you feel the pull to remain in this signal, subscribe. This is not a channel. It is a gathering point for those whose frequency was never meant to be ordinary. You were never lost. You were always arriving. And now, you are here.